Hey guys, welcome to Priceless B-Movies. I'm your host, Colin Price. Now, at this point, if you've been following my page for the last couple of years or so, or even if you just kind of jump around, because in almost every other review, I bring up the MPAA and how full of crap I think that they are. But it's not just them, it's ratings boards all over the world. It's so weird that, different cultures, different parts of the world think, this is offensive and this is not. Or this deserves an adults-only rating and this does not. In fact, one of the things that always kind of puzzled me was that, in America and in parts of Asia, violence, whatever, do whatever you want. Torture, shootings, bloodletting, whatever, that's fine, but show a nipple and, you better pray to God because your ass is theirs. That kind of stuff just really weirds me out. But I have to give a tremendous amount of appreciation when a movie like this comes out, looks at censorship and looks at these ratings boards and just kind of says, you know what? Fuck you. Evil Ed. Evil Ed is a Swedish film from 1995, stars Johan Rudebecq as an editor, and he is very used to editing films, not so much for content, but just for time, because you have to understand that, up until kind of the early to mid-90s, in that part of the world, having any kind of sex or violence in your film was much more damaging than it was than, say, like here in America. They were really strict about that kind of stuff. And, at the time that this was made, this was a great kind of satire on, just how stupid it is, it's film, it's fantasy. Who is it really hurting? But I digress. Getting back to the plot, Johan Rudebecq is the editor, and he's brought in to edit a series of slasher films that, now that the ratings board is kind of eased up, are now being allowed into that part of the world. And but they still have to censor some things, so they bring him in, and he has to watch these excessively violent, sex-filled movies and edit what he thinks is inappropriate. And, kind of the short end of it is that eventually he has to watch so much of the stuff over and over and over again, as an editor would have to, that he starts to go a little, fucked up. I first saw this movie almost 15 years ago. I picked up a VHS copy of it at a family video that was near where I lived and watched it. And I had never heard of it, but I was at that point in my life where I was like, if it was a horror movie and I hadn't seen it, I wanted to watch it no matter what it was. And I was honestly kind of turned off by it at first. I didn't catch that it was more or less making fun of censorship. I didn't catch all that. I didn't catch the themes. I just saw it as a movie about this guy who's watching these older films that are really violent, and him censoring them and him going crazy and yada yada. And it seemed kind of weird to me because I didn't totally understand what made it as special as it was. A few years later, I rented it again, gave it another shot, and I really enjoyed it. And now it's out on a special edition 3-disc Blu-ray that I was able to get a couple weeks ago, and oh my gosh, this has quickly become one of my favorite movies, even though when I first saw it, I didn't particularly care for it. The films themselves that this guy's reviewing are so over the top and so ridiculous.
Well, yeah.
I mean, have you ever, just seen a movie, kind of the whole idea that how a censorship board would see slasher films. There's the girl who takes her top off and the real creepy guy, and then he pulls out a knife and does some terrible pun and cuts her up, and then there's nothing more to it than that. And you get the joke that that's kind of how a lot of people see slasher films. But this movie just kind of plays it very straight. That is what the slasher films in this movie basically are. This guy's having to edit. But it's so simplistic that it's just hilarious. And they even have Bill Moseley from Texas Chainsaw 2 and the Rob Zombie, House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, dubbing the voice of the killers in these films. It is really funny. If for nothing else, you need to watch this movie just to watch the little snippets of the films that Ed is having to edit in this. Rudebecq gives a very entertaining, if somewhat campy at times, performance as the main character, but Olaf Roden really kind of walked away with this movie for me. Roden plays Sam Campbell, the guy who hires Ed to come in and edit these films. You know, some of the best lines in the movie, which, you know, I almost hope I'm not going to get in trouble with YouTube, but, you know, there's a great bit where, you know, the guy comes over to look at the work that Ed has done, and, you know, he says, man, this is really great, with the terrible dubbing that they've done on purpose for this film. Man, this is really great. This is really great work, Ed. Wait a second. Where is my beaver rape scene? I'm extremely happy that this movie is now available on Blu-ray, albeit though I think it's for limited edition. So if you guys can get yourselves a hold of a copy of this, or if you can find it streaming, definitely check it out. This is a real treat, especially if you're a fan of the horror movies like I am from like the 80s, like the splatter films like Reanimator and Evil Dead and all that. This movie is just the perfect love letter to those films, as well as being a very, very funny dark comedy about censorship and about, you know, kind of when you hear people say, oh, well, in the news, I heard that this kid shot this person or did the, you know, I wonder what kinds of movies they were watching. And, you know, basically this is a movie about what if that bullshit was actually true, and if you had to watch a whole lot of violence, it turned you into a violent person. Obviously, the movie isn't saying that that's the case, this is what'll happen if people watch movies. Instead, it's kind of making fun of just how dumb an idea that actually is. Evil Ed gets 3 stars. Actually, you know what? Screw that. Evil Ed gets 3.5 stars. I'll add the extra ½ star just for the scene when Ed opens his refrigerator after watching so much of this crap and sees a little gremlin inside that proceeds to eat all of his food and cuss him out before slamming the door and calling him a Nazi. That alone gives this film an extra ½ star. I love this movie, and I really hope that more people will look this film up, give it a chance, and appreciate it for what it is. This is a true priceless B movie in every way, shape, and form. That's my review of Evil Ed. Stay tuned, I got a lot more of these reviews coming. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more priceless B movies.